Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Nature of Reality Radio. It is July 23rd, 2014. I am your host, Andrew Fisher, broadcasting every Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from the suburbs of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to expose the true and false nature of reality for what it is and what it isn't. And, folks, I have a bad feeling. I'm pretty sure this is going to be deja vu all over again. Last time I was supposed to have Fritz Springmeier on my show to discuss the secrets of the Illuminati. He didn't show. And because of that, I had to do a show on different types of extraterrestrial races. And it appears that he's not going to come on again. He did apologize after that last show to say, I do want to do a show with you. And when I said July 23rd, he said, yes, let's do a show. And I've sent him messages. Didn't get a response to either of them. So it appears that, well, I hope I'm wrong, but if Fritz Springmeier does call in, we will be discussing the secrets of the Illuminati. Got his book, Bloods of the Illuminati, right next to me here. I was going to use as a guide. Read the whole book, except for the list at the end that lists people at Bilderberg and Bohemian Grove and such. Didn't read that part, but all the family chapters, yeah, I read them. There's actually more than 13 families. There's a couple of minor ones, like the Reynolds family, for example, but I don't think we'll be discussing that subject today because I got a bad feeling he won't be coming on. I got a strange feeling that guy who I'm emailing is not him. It's a Fritz Springmeier phony, just like how everything Jordan Maxwell that has Jordan Maxwell's name on it is not actually owned by Jordan Maxwell because they trademarked his name. Maybe the same thing is happening with Fritz Springmeier or something. I don't know, but somebody tells me that's not him who I'm communicating to. If any of you want to email him, it's springmeiermessages@hotmail.com. I believe that is it. He has a Facebook like page, which you can find that email. And maybe tell him, so why are you screwing over Andrew Fisher? I'll send him a message after this thing of giving up on you because you can't call in. You can't even respond to an email like you have it on 4 occasions now. And I don't know. I don't know what the problem is, but hopefully it won't be an issue. So today we'll discuss universal law and different types of personalities and life paths, courtesy of some in5d.com articles. And by the way, I just got kicked off Skype before the show. Bad internet connection. Internet's been running really slow, not just for me, but for my neighbor's house and at work. Some people at work surf the net. They're not supposed to, but everybody does it. Surf the net at work, and it's been slow. And also at my house and also at the UFO conference. I was at the UFO MUFON conference in Cherry Hill, New Jersey this past weekend. I made a big scene about how Hangar 1, the series, which had the host of the conference, John Ventry, and MUFON, one of the heads of MUFON, he was there. I made a real stinker about how the Disney Corporation owns the History Channel, which is the show that Ancient Aliens and Hangar 1, the series, is on, and I'm saying there's going to be brainwashing and disinformation put in the show, and they might try to censor your stuff. How do you cope with that? And I don't know. People are like, that's a good question, but in the end it seemed to make a few people uncomfortable. But the thing about the conference is, in regards to the internet connection was bad for some of the presenters. They had like Richard Hoagland syndrome, they called it, because Richard Hoagland had a lot of technical problems with his presentations. The same thing happened to them, and some of the scheduling times were like 30 minutes off because of the technical difficulties involving internet access. And Stanton Friedman, who I did a show with, I encourage you to watch it. Great show it was. Fascinating guy. He couldn't make it because he had a mini heart attack. Actually, he could have made it, but his doctor held him back, and apparently that's the word on the street. He was right on his computer right after the heart attack, wanted to get right back to business, even though I think he might have actually turned 80 by now. Man, what a hardworking guy. And I don't believe him about stars being powered nuclear fusion. I don't believe him when he says Bob Lazar's a fraud, and I don't believe him when he says that the government UFOs are not controlled by the military. He says if they were owned by the military, we would have used them in the wars. Well, I beg to differ on that one. If all the governments of the world are controlled by malevolent extraterrestrials, maybe it's not in their best interest to use UFOs in the wars. And also, as Bill Burns and John Lear said when I interviewed them, the reason we didn't use the UFOs in the wars is because we didn't have to, because we had airplanes to use. Definitely didn't have to use the UFOs. But still, Stanton couldn't make it. Missed him there. He tried to call in on Skype, but he couldn't because Skype kept spinning and spinning and spinning. Please wait, Skype is spinning. That kept happening for him. Everybody's having problems. Is there a spike in access right now that's causing the internet to slow down for everybody? It could happen. But anyway, we'll be doing a show on universal law and personality traits. But first, I'll do the news, courtesy of Alex Jones and Company at InfoWars. You'll be listening to me all night long, 2 hours. Some of the shows that I've done by myself have actually gotten a lot of views on YouTube. I don't know what that is. You have a great radio voice, Andrew Fisher. It's not the voice. It's what I say with the voice. That's what matters. But anyway, speaking of voices and talking and mouths, I need to get a drink here. Hold on, folks. I'll have to do that a lot during the show now because I'll be riding solo. But first, the news. Woman unwittingly fed, sheltered MS-13 gang member. Gang member receives handouts before attempting to proceed further inside U.S. Oh, boy. All this illegal immigration stuff. If the people coming into this country are going to harm us, then maybe we do need a process to make sure immigrants come into this country. I've said before on my shows, one might make the argument that having to get government permission or allow paperwork to enter a country, that's a violation of the right to travel, right to locomotion. But Alex Jones asserts there has to be a process for United States and Mexico having immigration from Mexico to U.S. because to let the Mexican people come into this country unfettered and unharassed might cause problems because Mexico, it's fallen apart. It's not like Switzerland, Alex Jones said, where people are peaceful. Mexico is gang members, drugs, violence. So maybe there has to be a process for them coming into this country, but they're coming into this against that process, and the government is doing that to screw us over and bankrupt us all and have the illegal immigrants take our jobs. I do not want to be saying, they took my job, and I don't think you want to either. All right, anyway, next article. Feds use border collapse as practice for martial law. FEMA is gaining plenty of experience in managing detention facilities. Are we going to have martial law? Is the dollar going to collapse soon? I bought a lot of storable food, put me in a lot of debt. Struggling to pay my bills now because I bought 10 years of storable food. It'll last 25 years, so I might as well not eat it for 20 years if there is no collapse, and then maybe 22 years into it, I'll make sure I eat one bag of that storable food a day, and I'll use it all up. So in the end, even though I'm in debt right now, big time for that, it will save me money in the end. All right, next article. Border Patrol agents. UN taking control of America's southern border. And this is a red-linked article, and rightfully so, apparently. Under the pretense of labeling illegals refugees, UN personnel are working with Department of Homeland Security to ship MS-13 gang members into U.S. MS-13. I'm not really an expert on that, but I know it is a malevolent Mexican gang, probably government-funded, and by the Mexican government and probably the U.S. government. And now the United Nations, we got to get the United Nations out of America. The United Nations was created after World War II, using World War II as justification to get more world peace. No, it was to consolidate everything. The United Nations was always designed to be the head of the global totalitarian government that the Illuminati bloodlines, I have to spring my hair on. The Illuminati bloodlines would be ruling the world with a totalitarian global government under a global army that cares nothing for basic human rights. A World Bank with there probably will be some cash. They need cash to get a little bit of things done, but you'd have to go through all kinds of invasive procedures to get cash. But in general, they want a global electronic currency and then a microchip global population. Some people assert many of the powers that be do not want to kill us. They actually want to microchip us and then use us as a cosmic war machine. Humanity, take away the free will of humanity and use us as a cosmic war machine by making us use our free will in malevolent ways when the power elites, the Illuminati bloodlines, colonize space. And the microchip will control us. And the Galactic Empire from Star Wars is an analogy for this. And that's what at least half of the Illuminati bloodlines want to do. They don't want to depopulate the Earth. They want to use us as warriors for bad purposes. We don't want that. But anyway, I totally digressed there. The article was about the UN taking control of America's southern border. Well, global government would do that in the UN. If they take control of something, then it'll be easier for them to create their galactic war machine. All right, I'm going really far out here. Okay, moving on. Pilots heard Ukrainian air traffic control order MH17 to change route. Russia accuses Kiev of tampering with ATC recordings. Well, the whole thing about the flight being shot down, the Malaysian flight, the Ukrainians seem to be the one responsible. Andrew Bartzis did say it's a false flag, but he didn't actually elaborate on that. I mean, the Russians had nothing to gain from that, from shooting that down. So why would they? It was the Ukrainians, and, well, I credit the company for giving a lot of evidence that things are not adding up. They're not ready to assert that it was not the Russians. I mean, some assert maybe it was the Russians. The plane was diverted in that direction by Ukrainians, and then got down because they had threatened, we're going to shoot people down if they come through here when we don't want them to come through here, and in which case they would have let the Russians do it. But evidence is suggesting that's not what happened. You guys can research this on your own, use your own discernment. Next article is Red Link, former border agent, government using immigrant children for asymmetrical warfare. In other words, the government is assisting in the downfall of America. Well, of course, the government is assisting in the fall of America. That's what they want to do, using children for warfare. Didn't I just mention something about a cosmic war machine earlier? Yeah, the government will do all sorts of crap to those illegal immigrants to screw over Americans. All right, next article. Insane. 1 in 10 Americans wants war with Russia over downed airliner. 85% believe Russia is responsible for missile attack. Well, if the Russians did shoot it down, the evidence suggests that they were scammed by people who diverted the plane, because that plane was not supposed to be flying. There was a no-fly zone for that plane, and they flew in it anyway at an altitude they weren't supposed to be flying. Did the Ukrainians divert it and the Russians shot it down? I don't know. If it was a true false flag, then it would have been the Ukrainians, or the Americans shot it down and the Ukrainian government was in on it. All right. Like I said, InfoWars said we don't know what happened, but we're showing evidence that things aren't adding up. So there's a conspiracy because things aren't adding up. It's not rocket science, folks. Next article: Islamic State bolstered by large cache of U.S. weapons. Capture of artillery batteries I think it's supposed to say ISIS, but it says capture of artillery batteries gives ISIS, I'm sure it's meant to say, the ability to bomb large areas. And this is preaching to the choir, this article title here. Of course, Islam is being bolstered by large cache of U.S. weapons. The U.S. government publicly runs ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and so does the Saudi Arabian government and British intelligence to a great extent. All right, moving on. One last article here. The MH17 cover Joseph Watson on the Savage Nation. It's probably a video article or something. Paul Joseph Watson joins Michael Savage to discuss MH17 cover-up and Kiev's failure to release air traffic control recordings. Well, actually, I'm glad I read this. Even you guys have to read this article yourself to understand it, what it's really about. But the air traffic control recordings, Kiev, capital of Ukraine is Kiev, for those that don't know. K-E-V, it's spelled, is not releasing control recordings. But that's okay, because they probably have hide. But Russia, on the other hand, is cooperating, releasing satellite images they talked about, which suggests they don't have anything to hide. Okay, something is going on. But wait a minute. Doesn't the NSA record everything? Doesn't the NSA record the air traffic control recordings? Can't we ask the NSA to, because they're spying on everybody, maybe they could release the air control recordings? Oh, no, well, we don't want to release that information because it might endanger national security, the NSA would say. And there are sheeple out there who would buy that excuse. Oh, my God, the people of this world. Some of them are so paradigmatic, so fearful, and so flat-out stupid that they will refuse to believe something shocking or disturbing, even if the evidence shows that they have no choice but to believe it. I didn't like saying that, but if insulting humanity can wake up the sheeple, then maybe it is in my best interest to occasionally insult humanity to wake up the sheeple. But now that I'm done with the news, let's go to these articles on In5D. Hopefully I don't get kicked off the internet here because the internet's been really slow. Just bear with me here. I'm going to start with the 20 universal laws. And to see if Fritz Springmeyer's on the call list. No, he is not. Somebody tells me that is not him who I was speaking to. What are the odds this happens with the same radio show guest? Makes no sense. I mean, are the powers that be putting Fritz on another timeline because they don't want him to come on my show? I shouldn't be giving myself so much credit. I'm sorry for the slowness here. This thing keeps spinning, just like Stan Freeman's Skype thing kept spinning, which is why he couldn't call into the conference on Skype from his home. That's happening here. I'm sure the internet access is going to work. It's just really slow for some reason. So just bear with me, folks. Yeah, the Malaysian plane thing. Research that a lot. I encourage you to use your own discernment because we don't really know what happened. Oh, okay, the page is finally loading. One last drink of water here, and then I'll start talking about the 20 universal laws. By the way, on In5D Radio, Michelle Walling and I think it was Larry Locken. I don't know if they had a guest show, but they talked about the 20 universal laws. They did their own show on this subject. I encourage you to watch that. I don't remember the date that it was. I didn't listen to that entire show, but I don't really have as much time to listen to shows now as I used to. I know I should because I host a show called Nature of Reality Radio, which means I need to listen to information to get out info, but you got to be more of an activist now in these days and stop spending time getting information. I've probably got all the information I need for the most part. But if I keep watching InfoWars every night, InfoWars Nightly News every night, and read an In5D article every single day, I'm sure it'll keep my information level high, my consciousness raised. That's so dull and boring. You got to watch other stuff. All right, here we go. The article, the 20 universal laws. In an ideal society, all current UCC, Uniform Commercial Code maritime laws would be replaced with the 20 universal laws. The universal law of harmony. This law supersedes even the fundamental law of karma, for harmony is the supreme potential of balance. The purpose of karma is to attain harmony. Yes, and the purpose of being on planet Earth is to resolve karma. Andrew Bartzis has said that the reason we are on Earth is to resolve karma. So the purpose of being on planet Earth is to attain harmony. Okay, that logic makes sense. If you throw a rock into a pond and disturb the harmony of the pond, you are the cause. The effect is the splash and the ripples that flows out and back until harmony is restored. Yes, timelines are not based on when, they are based on what? The cause and the effect. You are the cause, the effect is the splash, and then the ripples flow out. That's the change in the timeline. Similarly, your disharmonious actions flow out into the universe and back upon you, lifetime after lifetime, until eventually your own harmony is restored. Yes, what you give is what you get, what you reap is what you sow. It says here also see the universal law of harmony, so there's an article on this. So that's the first law, number one. Maybe some might say I should be doing this article from Law 20 to Article 1, but I'm going to do it the other way. Maybe it really doesn't matter, the list here, what numbers are. It's not numbered by importance, but I know, I just thought it was because that law of harmony seemed like that would be a number one. But let's see what the other laws are. The law of reincarnation and karma is number two. Until you have resolved your karma and fulfilled your dharma, which are the deeds you must do, you will continue to reincarnate into sequestral lifetime upon the earth. Reincarnation, Adrian Bartzis says, is not your friend. You do not want to reincarnate. You want to ascend. Well, some say ascend is the wrong word to use. You're not really getting above anything. You're not ascending. You're moving closer to the point that is infinite consciousness is another way of looking at it. But you get my drift. So you resolve karma or you keep reincarnating. I mean, Marcia Schaefer, when I had her on my show, she's an ET contactee who's talked about reincarnation. She thinks reincarnation is not necessarily bad. It's part of an experience process. But I don't know. Maybe it is just a point of view issue in that regard. Moving on, neither God nor the lords of karma bestow suffering upon you during these lives. You and you alone decide what you most need to learn and in your earthly sojourns. And for each life experience, you seek out other souls, often with shared histories and always with karmic configurations matching your needs. Whenever you act with intentions, you create karma. Actions are considered to be thoughts, emotions, words, and deeds in the mode of desire and intent behind each. Disharmonious actions must be balanced in the future, in this life, or in a future lifetime to have soul growth. So, it says in the previous law, your disharmonious actions flow into the universe and back upon you, and until eventually your own harmony is restored. In this similar sense, disharmonious actions must be balanced in the future, in this life, or in a future lifetime to have soul growth. So soul growth and harmony are the same thing if you follow the article's logic. All right, moving on. Law number 3, the universal law of wisdom. Wisdom erases karma. If you have the wisdom to learn your lessons through love and wisdom, you can mitigate your suffering. Sadly, we seem to learn the fastest through pain. through directly experiencing the consequences of our actions. As an example, you greedily take from others, and instead of learning through wisdom and love that this is wrong, you have to experience from others someone greedily taking from you, whether later in this life or in a future lifetime. Yes, so that raises the question, what about people who need to steal to survive because they're living on the streets with nowhere to go and nothing to do? They need to steal to survive, so will karma come back to haunt them because they're doing something that they basically have no choice to do to survive? I don't know. That's a question for Andrew Bartzis, I guess. Maybe I'll ask him that sometime. Don't ask Andrew too many questions. Don't want to harass him. He's an Akashic Records reader. He gets bombarded with questions, so you got to understand these people need a break because it takes a toll on them. And Andrew has said that there are other Akashic Records readers. He asserts that they can do a better job of reading the records than he can and verbalizing them. Seems kind of hard to believe because he is a galactic historian, one of only 3 that's existed, and so it seems kind of humble for him to say that. But maybe there is true. Maybe there are somehow people out there that can read the Akashics better than he can, but they just don't want to come out. He said that's the problem. They're too fearful of what other people think, apparently. The worst prison ever, the fear of what other people think. All right, moving on with the universal law of wisdom. Here's an example. In your last life, you were married to a soul who is your mate today, whom you cruelly left for another in that previous lifetime. Before you were born into your current life, you agreed to be left by your mate under similar circumstances. This will allow you to balance your karma and directly experience the pain of abandonment. If through the wisdom of Master Life Awareness it is easier to detach consciously from the relationship with love, you will erase the pain of parting while also passing your own test and thus absolving karma and evolving from within. I guess that's a good example. Make of that what you will. I've got to move on with the laws here. Only on number 4. The universal law of grace. Karma can be experienced to the letter of the law or in mercy and grace. In other words, if you give love, mercy, and grace to others, you will receive the same in return. What you give is what you get, sub-law, if you will. All right, moving on to number 5, our soul law of soul evolution. Everyone on Earth shares the goal of soul evolution, whether they realize it or not. We have reincarnated because we desire to evolve spiritually. By rising above all of our fear-based emotions, and in doing so learning how to express unconditional love, we raise our vibrational rate and move closer to a state of harmony. Even where it appears that we are not evolving, we are in reality making progress. We learn through pain of harmonious acts, which can be viewed as our mistakes or failures. This is the law of soul evolution. Yes, you need to have unfortunate experiences in life to learn. I've had unfortunate experiences in my life that seem hard to swallow, but looking back at them, I can understand. Maybe it was a good thing that I had this, because if I hadn't had this, I wouldn't have learned as well. But you got to rise above fear-based emotions, and that's why it happens, these bad things in your life's experience, to raise your vibration. Next law, number 6. The universal law of Bodhisattva. All right, just let me spell that for you guys. Bodhisattva, Bodhisattva, universal law of Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva is a standard term commonly accepted by most metaphysical adepts today. It means one who has transcended the need of earthly incarnations, but who has chosen to return to Earth to support others in achieving enlightenment. Bodhisattva knows he will never really be free until all souls are free. Most serious students of metaphysics have entered the Bodhisattva development stage of their evolution, the most serious students. So does that mean we should all want to be bodhisattvas because that shows we're really serious? But we'll never be able to attain higher consciousness. No, you are infinite consciousness, but we're trapped in a matrix. Suck it up and deal with it. Be a bodhisattva. Okay, I don't know. Maybe you choose your life path. Just because it's the most serious and most passionate thing does not mean you should necessarily do it. Sorry if I brainwash you folks out there. The universal law of vibrational attainment, number 7. The entire universe operates on the same principle of vibrational energy. When Einstein discovered that matter is energy, he opened the door to merging science and metaphysics. The scientists have proved that energy cannot die. It can only transform, or reincarnate, which is another version of saying transform, according to this article. And its very nature, energy must go forward or backwards. It cannot stand still, for to do so is stagnation, resulting in transformation. Your energy, your skin, which appears solid, is actually trillions of swiftly moving molecules orbiting each other at a specific vibrational rate. A physical life rate you have earned in the past as a result of how harmoniously or disharmoniously you have lived your past lives and your current up until this moment in time. When you are harmonious for a lifetime, you will have attained the highest vibrational rate, the God level. Problem is, these things take a long time, apparently. Bashar, channels, he's the ET that channels Daryl Anka. Daryl Anka was the channel for Bashar when I was at the N5D City of Angels conference. I got the chance to ask Bashar, now that Andromeda Council contactee Tolek and Franco De Nicola, Unified Soul, who I had on my show, by the way, Franco. I encourage you to listen to that. And they said Mother Earth as a planet has ascended into 4D, so when will we ascend into 4D? He said, you're in the fourth dimension already because you exist in the 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. You will go into the fourth density, or you will move in and out of the fourth density in the next 1,000 years. He said you will remain in physicality for another 1,000 years. You will move in and out of different densities. He said you can think of a dimension as a country, and cities as the different states within that country. What's the difference between dimension and density? I've gone through this before. And by the way, I think I should owe an apology to Andromeda Council contactee Tolek, because I sent him a bunch of questions about the difference between the terms dimension and density, because he always said humanity will ascend into the fourth dimension in January 2014, and he talked about a higher vibrational level where we're all crystalline body and all. And I'm thinking maybe he meant fourth density, and maybe that's the reason we're not in here. And his ET contacts weren't very clear on the difference between dimension and density. And I don't think anybody knows what the difference is, but the point is, he doesn't acknowledge a distinct difference between the terms dimension and density. And Joe Mara, who I had on my show too, he says that he uses the terms interchangeably, but people assert there's a difference. And on those 2 interviews that Tolek and Joe Mara did with each other, which you can find on Tolek's YouTube channel, I noticed that he was going a little nuts about what is the difference between dimension and density. I don't think we need to discuss that. And I felt kind of bad, because I'm thinking maybe the reason he's obsessing about them is because I forced him to obsess about it when I sent in those questions that had to do with the difference between them. So Tolek, I'm sorry if that's the reason you were obsessing about that on the 2 shows you did with Joe Mara. But as far as I'm concerned, the only reason we didn't ascend like your contacts told you that we would is because we are not on that timeline. There is a timeline problem when it comes to ETs and higher dimensional density levels. They perceive time as an illusion, so just because they say it happened in January 2014 doesn't mean that it will, because time is different to them. So cut Tolek a break, people. Well, was he tampered with? Andrew Bartis recently on a question and answer session, some guy asked him, so what should we think about these ET contacts like Sheldon Neidl? And we didn't mention Tolek, but he gave Sheldon Neidl as an example. And Andrew Bartis said, use discernment at the highest level. Some of them have been tampered with. It's hard to say which ones have been tampered with by malevolent entities, but it can happen. All right, I'm not going to talk about that any further. I don't want people with crazy ideas that think, we should listen to all ET contacts and obsess about who's right and who's wrong. Folks, just use your own discernment with that. All right, next, the universal law of free will. The law of free will operates in 3 ways, and we're all familiar with this law. Number 1, although many of the major events in your life are astrologically predestined, you always have free will to mitigate the impact of the event or to transcend it entirely. This will result from how you live your life up to the situations you have destined for yourself to experience. If you give grace and mercy to others, are positive, loving, compassionate, and demonstrate by your action that you have learned past lessons, you can minimize disharmonious experiences. Number 2, as you obtain master of life awareness and develop conscious detachment, you will live by far less affected by worldly events than in the past. A master of life enjoys all the warmth and joy that life has to offer, but detaches from the negativity by allowing it to flow through him without affecting him. Well, shouldn't you still have to face it? Yet, So not the New Age movement. You still have to. You can't meditate all day long. You have to be active. All right, but I'm going to move on to number 3 here. You always have free will in how you respond to any situation. If you respond with positive emotions, compassion, and integrity, you have probably learned your karmic lessons and will not have to experience a similar situation in the future because you resolve karma, right? We are living on a planet where there is free will, but it's being interfered with on a massive scale by Greys, reptilians, and other malevolent entities. But moving on to number 9, the law of one. Oh, this is a powerful law. One infinite consciousness. All right, moving on. What it says in the article here, every soul living and discarnate is connected at the level of the collective unconscious, deep within the higher self. We're all part of a great energy gestalt called God. And because we are part of God, we are God. It is the goal of the gestalt, I think that's how it's right, gestalt, to move the energy forward, creating more energy. So when living harmoniously, we each increase our vibrational rate and intensify the vibration of the entire gestalt. When we are disharmonious, we decrease the vibration of the entire gestalt because we are one. Everything you think, say, and do affects every other soul. So that means you are a sovereign because everything you do affects everything else, albeit at basically so small levels, for all intents and purposes, it didn't happen, but it did happen. That's how reality works in this matrix. If only we could get out of this matrix, this Saturn moon matrix, the law of one would be much easier to recognize because Earth is a hard planet to live on. It's a prison planet. All right, hold on a minute, just because my internet thing is spinning here. Internet's spinning again. I want to make sure I don't get disconnected. Moving on to number 10, halfway through this article. The universal law of manifestation. Everything manifest begins as a thought, an idea. Ideas and experiences create beliefs, which in turn create your reality. If you are unhappy with your current reality, you must change your beliefs and your behavior. Beliefs can be changed when you recognize those that are not working for you and begin programming what will create success and harmony in your life. The unlimited creative power of your mind through dedication, awareness, and training can be the wisdom to rise above your karma. Within physical and spiritual laws, you can manifest any reality you desire to experience. In regard to changing your behavior, you must decide which disharmonious behavior you want to eliminate. Then be aware that you don't have to change how you feel about something to affect it if you are willing to change what you are doing. Well, this does go back to that statement I made earlier that I didn't like saying, but I said it for the sake of waking up humanity. That the reason it's so easy for governments to keep secrets and get away with evil, and the Illuminati too, is because many of the common people on planet Earth are so paradigmatic, so fearful, and so flat-out stupid that they will refuse to believe something shocking or disturbing, even if the evidence shows that they have no choice but to believe it. Such people are unwilling to change their current reality and will not change their beliefs and their behavior as well. Andrew Bartzis did say on the 20-part series on the Creating 5D YouTube channel that there are some people out there who can't be woken up. Their beliefs are too rigid because they're too lost in the matrix. They will not be able to understand the universal law of manifestation. But that's their problem. You want to try to wake them up? Talk to them in a gentle tone of voice. Don't get all loud, obnoxious, and in your face, because that'll turn them off. Number 11, the universal law of conscious detachment. Buddha's earthly teachings are best summarized with one of his statements. It is your resistance to, let me quote this, quote, it is your resistance to what is that causes your suffering, unquote. And by suffering, and everything that doesn't work in your life. Relationship problems, loss of loved ones, loneliness, sickness, accidents, guilt, monetary hardships, unfulfilled desires, and so on. When you accept what is, you accept the unaltered realities in your life without resisting them. So the unalterable realities in your life without resisting them, you accept them. Some things are facts. They exist, and no matter how much you resist them, there's nothing you are going to be able to do about them. Change what you can change. But that isn't to accept unalterable situations as they are, without wasting mental or physical energy attempting to change what you cannot change. Out of acceptance comes involved detachment, the ability to enjoy the positive aspects of life, but to allow the negative to flow through you without resistance and without affecting you. I guess it's similar to the law of manifestation in that regard. You understand that some things cannot be changed. Well, let's go back here to the law of one. Everything you think, say, and do affects every other soul. So you can change it. But in this matrix, it's, for all intents and purposes, impossible, without actually being impossible, for someone to change things that they cannot change. This article, number 11, the universal law of conscious detachment, asserts that some things cannot be changed, so you have to accept that. But isn't anything possible? Because we are one. There's a contradiction here. I love pointing out contradictions. Make of the contradiction whatever you will. Moving on to number 12, the universal law of gratitude. From the perspective of karma and the law of one, the more you give, the more you will receive. The more you assist others, the more you will assist yourself. The power of this law also works in your day-to-day life. Yes, if you keep being nice, you will want to keep being nice. If you want to be an asshole, you will keep acting like you want to be an asshole. Or, excuse me, if you act like an asshole, you will like acting like an asshole, and you will keep acting like one. So we don't want that now, do we? So some people will fall apart because of all sorts of problems in life. They got addicted to drugs. They lost a loved one. They realized 9/11 was an inside job, and they can't handle the truth, so they get too negative about life. And people, show gratitude, and things will work well. Don't let the negativity affect you. The more you give, the more you will receive. So does that mean if I keep giving money for donations, I will get a lot of money back? Well, considering our financial system is untenable, I don't necessarily think it works that way, that because of an untenable system, you can donate a lot of money, and what you give out in donations, you will get back. It's hard to say on that one, because our financial system is so complex, it's designed to fail. And some countries are dropping the dollar now because of the government passing a law saying that foreign nations that use the dollar as their reserve currency must report to the IRS. Foreign countries don't want to report to the IRS because it's a criminal agency. It's also a Puerto Rican private trust fund, by the way. And they're dumping the dollar. So something that's getting dumped, can it show gratitude if you give a lot of it? I don't know. All right, I'm digressing. Moving on. The law of fellowship. That's number 13. When two or more people of similar vibration are gathered for a shared purpose, their combined energy directed to the attainment of that purpose is doubled, tripled, quadrupled, or more. This esoteric awareness has been used by covens, esoteric religions, healing groups, and recently worldwide meditations for world peace. Yes, energy flows where attention goes, I guess, is another way of saying the universal law of fellowship. Makes sense? Number 14, the universal law of resistance. That which you resist, you draw to you, and you will perpetuate its influence upon your life. Resistance is fear, so it is something you need to karmically resolve. The law of resistance assures that you let go of the fear by encountering it until you are forced to deal with it by learning conscious detachment. Yes, fear is unavoidable in this Saturn moon matrix that we live in on planet Earth. Number 15. Everybody knows this one. The law of attraction. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. Did I just mention that with the universal chip? I guess that's definitely related to this law. Some laws you can draw parallels to and maybe combine them into one law. So maybe this 20 universal laws, you could make 10 universal laws out of it. But anyway, you attract what you are and that which you concentrate upon. If you are negative, you draw in and experience negativity. If you are loving, you draw in and experience love. You can attract to you only those qualities you possess. So if you want peace and harmony in your life, you must become peaceful and harmonious. Yes, so people that get loud and obnoxious and have a bad attitude, they will eventually have things come back to haunt them. Somehow, some way. Not necessarily in a horrible way, but an unpleasant way. That even though it doesn't inflict pain, it's like, whoa, that was really unpleasant to be through. So, all right, next article here. The universal law of reflection. This the traits you respond to in others, you recognize in yourself, both positive and negative. It has four primary manifestations, the universal law of reflection does. Number one, that which you admire in others, you recognize as existing within yourself. That which you resist and react to strongly in others is sure to be found within yourself. That which you resist, that was two. Number three, that which you resist and react to in others is something which you are afraid exists within you. And number four, that which you resist in yourself, you will dislike in others. In others, chosen to incarnate upon the manifest plane to learn to rise above the effect of fear. Those fears will always be reflected in your reactions to others. Thus, your goals are very obvious once you recognize how to perceive them. As you let go of the fear, you automatically open to expressing more unconditional love. I guess that is odd, but yet it makes sense. A paradox that makes sense. It's a complicated law because it has four basic steps, but in the end it all makes sense. Number 17, the universal law of unconditional love. As an addendum to number 16, apparently. The expression of unconditional love will eventually result in harmony. Unconditional love is not romantic love. It is the acceptance of others as they are without judgment or expectations. It is total acceptance of others without attempting to change them, except by our own positive example. The law of unconditional love says, if you go out of your way to express unconditional love, you automatically rise above fear. And as you transcend your fears, you automatically open to the expressions of unconditional love. Yes, you can't get out of fear entirely in this matrix until we break free of it. So I just started to click. Let me make sure I didn't get kicked off. No, I'm still on. So just keep trying to give out love. Don't judge. Don't have problems against people the way they are. But if they harm you, you do have the right to sue them and all, and press charges against them. Because you have the right to do anything that does not result in you causing harm or intending to cause harm to another person or property through either negligence or deliberate intent. Number 18, the universal law of magnetic affinities. By astrologically choosing the time and place of your birth, you determine the nature of the effects you will experience in your life. Well, I personally have said before, I don't look at astrological readings. I don't see the point. I say just live life to the fullest and let the stars guide me rather than looking at the stars as what I should be doing. I don't really see the point, but I do acknowledge astrology is real. Moving on the other side, before we are born, we make decisions about the lifetime we will be entering into. You choose your parents, souls to interact with you, and the astrological configurations of your birth which determine your character, personalities, abilities, restrictions, and timing for strengths and weaknesses. If all of this seems too complicated to be real, be aware that you are only using 5 to 10% of the capacity of your brain. And the brain mind researchers say the human brain has 200,000 times the capacity of the greatest computer ever built. Such calculations as I've just described would be no problem for such a computer. It's all about raising our consciousness. It's not really the brain, it's our consciousness. The brain is just the, how do I say this? The missing link that allows our souls to exist in this reality, in this body. And without the brain, our soul could not, it could finally find another way to exist as a body, but for some reason, this human body, its conduit between this matrix and infinite consciousness, to allow the infinite consciousness to experience this form, has been chosen to be in the brain. Well, I don't know. I guess there's a point of view issue there from a biological perspective, but we'll move on here. Number 19, almost done. Going to move on to the next article soon. The universal law of abundance. You have everything required to make your earthly incarnation a paradise if you choose to accept that which is your divine birthright. We live in a universe of abundance, although the majority of those populating our planet appear to view it as a universe of scarcity. Well, when there's a matrix that has a lot of free will interference in it by entities, you know it's going to feel like a universe of scarcity. But people don't realize they're infinite, so it doesn't feel like abundance. All right, this is the final article here. If you seek to, the final law, the universal law of divine order. If you seek to understand the law of divine order, study the natural balance of nature, for it works very much the same way. Everything is as it should be, although mankind, our energy gestalt, is far from experiencing its potential of total harmony. There are no accidents. Your energy translated into thoughts, words, emotions, and deeds. This assures that you always have the learning opportunities you require to resolve your karma and, as with you, the collective thoughts, words, emotions, and deeds of mankind create the environment for us all. If enough souls focus their energy upon peace, we will have peace. If the majority of souls are filled with anger, may all have to experience war. We are one, and like the many subpersonalities within you, the dominant traits of mankind, the entire gestalt, will emerge to resolve our group karma. Seemed like an appropriate closing law to close this article with. Maybe it makes sense that it was the last article, the last law in the article. So just want to again say this was an article on in5d.com. Who exactly was the author of this article? Doesn't actually say at the top. You always want to give credit where credit is due, I guess, and cite your sources. So not going to go there. I don't really have time for that, but said came from onemindoneenergy.com. Don't know who runs that site, but Greg Prescott, you made a wise choice in uploading that to in5d.com. I will now move to the article titled, Which Life Theme Did You Choose? Life theme, I guess, is another way of saying personality. Oh, Sean Cohen in the chat room. It's in5d.com is where the articles came from, if that's what you're asking. And I'm very upset, Sean, that Fritz Springmeier did not come on. I don't think that was him who I was talking to, as I said at the beginning of the show. But I just finished going over the 20 Universal Laws article. I will now go into the Which Life Theme Did You Choose? This is a relatively long article. I hope I will be able to cover everything before my hour and 12 minutes is up. I don't know if I'll be able to communicate with you in the chat room, Sean, because I'm doing the show myself. I got to keep talking to make sure I get this done, but I'll try a couple times. Nobody's called in yet. Hey, if somebody wants to call in, by all means do. Just please understand, I would like to try to get this whole article read. All right, which life theme did you choose? It says here in the intro, according to Sylvia Brown, everyone chooses a particular life theme before incarnating to this planet. This serves as a template for your life path and will provide various challenges along your way. Which life theme did you choose? The following is an excerpt from Sylvia Brown's book, My Guide, Myself. The first life theme, and Helene Lipson has told me that I am this life theme, and that is activator, which I'm sure is related to the word activist, which I am. Helene Lipson tells me, we need you at the conferences because you're an activator. Well, I'm not the world's foremost authority on anything, Helene, as Jordan Maxwell likes to say. But this focus here on this personality life theme is to perform the tasks that others have failed to accomplish. These may be truly gargantuan or quite menial, whatever the word is pronounced, but the focus is always on getting the job done right. Activators are the turnaround artists or the troubleshooters of the world, the ones who successfully reverse failure. Naturally, these entities are in great demand and so have a tendency to spread themselves too thin. Activators should make every effort to confine their energies to tasks where a genuine opportunity to achieve beneficial change exists. Well, I do that. When it comes to conferences, I see which conferences are local and available and which rallies and such I can go to, and I go to them. And I encourage others to do the same. You got to be an activist now. That means maybe spending a little less time getting information from YouTube and such and getting more out there. Hey, if you're looking for nothing better to do, I got an idea. That video on the Alex Jones YouTube channel, the Alex Jones channel, it's called Secrets Police Don't Want You to Know. Spread that video like wildfire because it holds the key to keeping billions of dollars in stolen revenue out of the hands of the corrupt cops, tyrants in government, New World Order forces, and the car insurance companies too, and judges and corrupt lawyers as well. And if you have nothing to do, just spread that like wildfire. That's just my suggestion. I do. But this article, by the way, it's alphabetical in terms of the life themes. The next music, drama, crafts, painting, and writing are included in this category. An aesthetic theme is not to be confused with little flair for one of those enterprises. When an aesthetic theme is present, the entity is driven by his or her innate talent. A need to create manifests itself at a young age and dominates the individual's entire life. If the secondary theme is a complementary one, the entity has a long and productive career. If not, the acclaim and privilege the entity only leads to dissipation and often tragedy. Examples can be found in the lives of many famous people. The agonized existence of Vincent van Gogh reflects a very different but equally tragic application of a conflicting secondary theme. I don't really think about this one much, and I mean, I did have times when I did music and crafts and even a little painting when I was very, very, very young. I gave that up for some reason, but I do remember before being in kindergarten, I liked to paint. But sometimes just because you're painting beautiful things doesn't necessarily mean that you're having a beautiful life. But we'll move on to the next one here. Analyzer. Not only does this entity want to know everything, but how it works and why. Analyzers are afraid they will miss something or that some detail will be overlooked. The rest of us learn from their continuing scrutiny of the most minute detail. These entities thrive in scientific or highly technical settings where their skills are essential. In everyday life situations, the challenge is to let go and trust the senses. Not just trust the senses, trust your gut and your heart. Go with your gut, follow your heart, and you will go well, even if you're not an analyzer. Next life theme, banner carrier. The first lieutenant of the cause fighter may be found picketing, demonstrating, or possibly lobbying. These entities also fight the battle against injustice. The key to success in achieving this theme is moderation, tact, and discrimination. Discrimination. Okay. It is better for these entities to select one cause and see it through than to scatter their impact among many. Variety is the spice of life, isn't it? Don't you not want to focus on just one cause and maybe scatter your impact among many for the variety's sake so you don't get bored? That's the way I like to do it. I be banner carrier and all the things I do. Does that make me banner carrier, though, because I don't focus on one task? No, not necessarily. But we're going to move on to the next article. Why do I keep saying article? It's not an article. It's a life theme. Builder. These entities are the cornerstones of society. The unsung heroes and heroines of wars and organizations. Good parents are often builders, enabling their children to go to a much larger canvas. Without these cogs, the wheels would never turn. Yet builders rarely credit accomplishments made possible by their efforts. They need to keep in mind that not all prizes are won on this plane of existence. Often those who get the credit on earth are not perfecting as rapidly as the builders who help to make their accomplishments possible. Why don't the builders get credit? Well, Obama once said, "You didn't build that. The government helped you." Does that have anything to do with this? Does that explain why builders need to keep in mind that not all prizes are won on this plane of existence because other people say you didn't build that even though you did? Okay, don't mean to get political here, but moving on. Catalyst, next life theme. Here are motivators, those agents of action who make things happen. Classroom stars, whom everyone aspires to be. The ones invited to parties to ensure excitement. Catalysts are essential to society for their innovations. Catalysts generally have boundless energy and actually appear to thrive on stress. They must have an arena in which to perform, or they become more and counterproductive. Actually appear to thrive. I know people like that. I sometimes tell people I love it when I'm angry and mad. Do I actually love it when I'm angry and mad? Well, I don't know. If I truly am an activator, as Elaine Lipson asserts I am, then if I really want to get active, I gotta get loud, obnoxious, and angry, as if, to use an Alex Jones analogy, an iceberg was on top of me, and I need to get really angry to get that iceberg off me. That's why that's the anger he likes to have, which he says is good anger, and I do agree with him on that one. And you can't be all new agey about it. You have to get angry sometimes, and that's the right way to be to thrive on stress, I guess. So I guess we might as well move on here. Cause, the number of causes in infinite. Peace, whales, hunger, and so on. The number of causes, excuse me, they didn't write this here. It should have said the number of causes are infinite. They use examples, peace, whales, hunger, and so on. And the cause fighter will either be drawn to them or will create more. These entities fulfill an important function by speaking for others, or too absorbed with their own themes to address social issues. Cause fighters have a tendency toward impulsiveness that can place themselves and others in jeopardy. It is essential that cause fighters consider the possibility that the cause itself is minimal compared to their ego involvement. Yes, the ego can be a very powerful thing. Sigmund Freud would say, I'm a car insurance ad on my headphones here. Let me see what's going on here. I hope that will stop, but I don't hear it now. That was a little bit of a distraction. Let me ask people in the oh no, I hear it again. I don't hope it stops. People in the chat room, Sean Cohen, do you by any chance hear a car insurance commercial? Because that was pretty unpleasant interference. If you did hear it, let me know. Because I need to know if you're getting the same interference. I'm not hearing it anymore. I hope it'll stop. But Sean, since you're asking, Fred Springmeyer did not show up for some reason. I don't even think it's him that I'm talking to when I contacted him. Second time this has happened. Had to do another show by myself, all because he didn't come on. The computer here says Shockwave Flash isn't responding. This has happened before. So, folks, I don't know if you can actually hear me. It says I'm still connected. But, my God, these internet problems are getting ridiculous. Like I said in the introduction, I'm not the only one having them. But if you by any chance cannot hear me, please let me know. Because I think my show may have stopped, but it's not actually saying it. I really don't want to continue if I'm not actually on the air because I'm getting a message here. You know what, just to play it safe, I'm going to log off the, well, actually the message is gone. And the show is continued, but the problem is I'm hearing a commercial in the background. Hang on a minute, folks. I but I've had this problem before, and I need to see if maybe I can contact Blog Talk Radio, because I've told if this problem happened before, I could potentially call into Blog Talk Radio, and they could solve the problem of some sort of Skype connection. Well, you are loud and clear, so they're not hearing the commercials. Man, the interference is quite unpleasant. All right, you know what? I'm going to sign off Skype right now, and then sign back in. You guys are not going to hear me for a moment because I don't think I could talk with these distractions. I don't know where they're coming from or what, but I'm going to disconnect for a moment, and I will log back into the show momentarily.
Hey, folks, I am back on the air. I'm not actually using my computer right now. I am using my cell phone right now. Never actually done this before, but the show must go on. I don't actually have the chat room in front of me. I guess I'll try to check it when the show ends. And while I'm trying to talk here, I'll do some more of the getting back on Blog Talk Radio. It said there was a flash problem. This has happened before when I've had Blog Talk Radio on for long periods of time, been to the site, the flash player stops working. I'm using Google Incognito to do the show. I hope I don't have to get a new computer. But I guess at this point I got to move on. So I am on with controller here. The challenge of this entity is obvious. Napoleon and Hitler were typically examples of this theme manifested in its most negative sense. The controller feels compelled not only run the broad overall show, but to dictate to others how they must perform the smallest detail of their lives. In order to perfect, these entities must learn self-control. Yes, I remember Yoda once telling Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, control, you must learn control. And, Luke was a little impatient when he was trying to become a Jedi, so that came back to haunt him. Folks, please forgive me if you hear a little stuttering in my voice here. It's just that I'm trying to find out if I can get back to Blog Talk Radio on the computer, because I really don't want to have a cell phone near my head like this for this long. It's not good for the body, but especially the brain. Can give you tumors. So forgive me if I stutter here. But I'm going to try to keep going. Emotionality. Not only the highs and lows, but every subtle nuisance of emotion will be felt by these entities. Frequently, emotionality is a secondary theme of poets and artists. As such, it will indeed enhance creativity while imposing a severe challenge. The recognition of a need for balance is all essential here, as is the establishment of self-control. Yes, people get emotional and they cry and get teary-eyed when emotional things happen. Some do. And I can certainly understand why that would enhance creativity while imposing a severe challenge at the same time. Sorry, folks, I just want to get back to that site. I'll know soon enough. I hit this technical problem where if shockwave and being a Blog Talk Radio for a long time has potentially cost the show, one thing I definitely need to do is log back into Skype. This is not going to sound very good when I upload it to YouTube. I'm sorry. I still got enough time to get all the information out, but shouldn't have to be doing technical problems and issues while live on the air. It's sad, ridiculous, pathetic. So moving on here, I got to move on. Experiencer is the next one. It's not unusual for this entity to go from flower child to bank president to vagabond touring the world in a self-made boat. Experiencers dabble in nearly everything and master many of their pursuits. Wealth is merely a byproduct of a manifested experience. Good health is essential to an experiencer. It is important not to jeopardize this by excesses. Yes, in order to have a good experience, you need to have good health. And wealth is a byproduct of that. That's important. Money does not buy happiness. We all need to understand that. All right. If I can get by any chance, get back to the screen here, and the studio. It's not working. It says stop plugin, and it says could not load shockwave. Actually, let me try getting into the studio here. Maybe if I get into the studio, it'll work. Or I got to do another live theme while I'm talking here. Fallibility. These entities appear to be always at the wrong place at the wrong time, for they have entered life with a physical, mental, or emotional handicap. Helen Keller, who as an infant contracted a fever that left her deaf and blind, is an excellent example. Her triumph over these handicaps is an aspiration to everyone. It is important for entities with a fallibility theme to remember that they chose this path in order to set an example for the rest of us. Well, it's good to see I'm on the air, and, this is good. I can, you know what, I'm just going to forget about Skype right now and just keep using my phone. In the future, I think I'm going to try to see if I can connect something to this phone so I can so I can talk on it instead of the Skype headphones. But yeah, it says Shockwave Flash has crashed here on my computer. And this has happened before when I've been on Blog Talk Radio website for long periods of time. I don't know why that happens. Are they implanting something in my computer to keep my show from getting on the air? Nah, don't want to give myself too much credit. But got to move on here to the next article. Follower. Initially, these entities might have preferred to be leaders, but on some level they decided not to make the necessary commitment. The challenge of the follower is to realize that leadership is impossible without them, and so recognize their own importance. Perfection comes from accepting the self-chosen theme and providing the leader with the best support possible. Discrimination is essential here in deciding exactly who and what to follow. Why are they choosing to use the word discrimination? I remember earlier in this talk I said discrimination doesn't seem like a good word, so why in the world would they use that word? So whatever the case may be, follower. Well, you don't want to be stalking someone. I mean, following does not necessarily mean you're stalking them. But follower, everybody's got to be a follower at some point if they want to be a leader. That's very important to understand. I really want to have a phone near my head for this long, making such a big stink about this. I know I shouldn't. But see if... all right, I'm going to suck it up and continue. I'm going to ask my guardian angels and spirit guides and source to see if they can protect me from negative damage to my body as I'm having this phone near my head. I really don't want to have this phone near my head here, but got to do what you got to do to get the show going. It's only going to be for an hour. All right, I said article again. Why do I say that? It's Life Path. Harmony. That was law number 1 on the previous article, harmony. Balance remains all important to these entities, and they will go to any length to maintain it. Their personal sacrifices. Okay, the problem is I just reloaded the article here and by accident. And all right, here it is again. Harmony. Balance remains all important in these entities, and they will go to any length to maintain it. Their personal sacrifices are admirable up to a point, but the real challenge lies in the acceptance of life's wrinkles. What can't be changed must be adapted and accepted. Healer is the next one. Entities with this theme are naturally drawn to some aspect of the healing professions, physical or mental. The good they do is obvious. The only danger is that they can easily become too empathetic. It is essential that those with a healer theme pace themselves so that they avoid burnout. And I've seen Andrew Bartzis has done healings, and you've seen that. I've seen in some interviews that he uploaded to his YouTube channel. He has scars on his body, and people ask him, where's that from? And I said, that's from healing people. The negative entities attack me. And I've really, in recent times, wanted to learn how to become a Reiki healer. I mean, C.J. Miller, she's a Reiki healer, and there were some other people that I listened to on In 5D Radio, and I know C.J. is one for sure. I really know. I don't know if Michelle and Helene are certified. I know Helene is a psychic astrologer, but definitely want to consider doing Reiki. Being a healer, that would be a huge step to helping humanity. And speaking of helping humanity, the next article is the next life path is humanitarian. While cause fighters and banner carriers cry out against the wrongs committed by and against mankind, the humanitarian scene takes these entities in the action itself. Humanitarians are too busy damaging, teaching, holding, building, and so on to have time for protest. Those in this category are much concerned with the concept of evil, and they are inclined to excuse mankind for its faults. Since humanitarians rarely stop with family and friends, reaching far beyond anyone and everyone who touches them, they are in danger of overextending themselves. The challenge for the humanitarian is to avoid physical burnout through self-love and nourishment. Okay, folks, just a minute. I want to try to reload the chat room here because I want to see if people are able to talk. It says I am on the show here, but no, it said the shockwave thing isn't responding. Oh, well, it is what it is. I guess I won't be able to communicate in the chat room for the rest of the show, but the show must go on. So, infallibility. These entities are born rich, handsome, attractive, witty, and so forth. When we consider that perfection is the universal goal, this theme becomes one of the most challenging. Well, nobody can be perfect. I mean, so why would that be a universal goal if you can't be perfect? Or can you be perfect? I guess in this matrix it's hard, but I guess it can be done. It says there is often a tendency toward excesses of all kinds. It is almost as though the entity wants to tempt fate. Curiously, there may often be a lack of self-esteem that causes the entity to fear that he or she is not lovable as an individual. The goal here is to truly accept the theme and learn to live with it. And the next one here, intellectuality. Here is the theme of the professional student, Charles Darwin, who used the knowledge that he acquired through intensive study to experiment, hypothesize, and eventually publish. It is an excellent example of one who has perfected this theme. Charles Darwin, an excellent example. I mean, thing with Charles Darwin, wasn't he an Illuminati frontman who was designed to scam people into believing the lie that is evolution? Evolution did not happen like Charles Darwin tells us it does. And, well, anyway, rest of this article, but since knowledge for its own sake is frequently the goal among intellectuals, there is often a danger that the knowledge that has been so ardently sought and painfully acquired will go nowhere. Well, Charles Darwin's knowledge will go nowhere because it's a lie. Humans did not evolve from apes who were genetically engineered by extraterrestrials. All right, moving on. Irritant, deliberate fault finders. Entities with the theme of irritant are essential to the perfection of others, for in their company we are forced to learn patience and tolerance. Though it's important not to play into the irritant's innate pessimism, we must also be non-judgmental. We must remember that irritants are perfecting their themes so that we can perfect ours through them. Yes, I know some people who are irritants. You can't be judgmental of them. Although you can acknowledge that they're being irritating. If they're harming other people, then they need to be interfered with, because we don't want them to irritate us to the point of affecting our benevolent free will, now do we? But they're perfecting their themes so that we can perfect ours through them. That's why they're here. All right, so folks, I'm sorry. I'm going to actually make one more attempt to get on Blog Talk Radio. I don't know why Shockwave has crashed here. I don't know if Google Incognito has a lousier Shockwave thing than regular Google. I don't see why it would, but it could be that that's the reason I'm having problems here logging on and getting a Blog Talk Radio to work on my computer. Again, I don't like having this phone near my head like this. But I got to move on. Next article. Folks get used to me saying article for some reason. I don't know why I say it. Maybe it's because I do InfoWars in the beginning of every show, and I get used to saying next article, because it's a news article that's from InfoWars, and that's why I'm used to saying that instead of next life theme here. But whatever the case, this one is justice. Many of our founding fathers, concerned as they were with fairness and equality, are example of the justice theme in operation. Those with justice as a theme will eagerly give their names when they witness an accident or crime. As admirable as all this sounds, it is essential that these entities use discretion in their choices. Yeah, you don't necessarily want to give your name to the authorities. That could come back to bite you. And I shouldn't use the word authorities. They are public servants, the police and the public officials and the people in government are. So you got to use your discretion. Mob violence is another misguided attempt to right a wrong. It is imperative that those with justice as a theme remain God-centered. Lawfulness. Practicing or teaching law is an obvious choice for these entities, who are almost obsessed by issues of legality. Some of those entities may also be found serving on governing boards. When elevated, these souls keep the world safe and balanced, but they must be on guard against the possibility of using their power in a self-serving manner. Leader is the next one. Those who pursue this theme are controlled and premeditated, rarely innovative. They become leaders in areas that are already established. Their drive is toward success rather than creation. Their challenge is to avoid power trips. Yes, you don't want to have a power trip because that'll make you an asshole. And funny here in the Bryn Athyn area. Even though the Bryn Athyn area is privatized, and everything is owned by the church, including the police department and everything. The people who own the cathedral area, they don't mind people parking on the grass, but yet there was a security guard who cared if people parked on the grass, and there was another security guard who didn't care if people parked on the grass, and it was getting really annoying for a lot of people. And I guess that one security guard was having a power trip, and people were really objecting to that. Just hang on tight for a moment, folks. I just need to take a pause from this. And apparently I can't because it says Shockley isn't responding. I don't know how many times I'm going to try this throughout the course of the show before I finish this article. This show may not go 2 hours if I don't finish this. But the show may keep recording even when I hang up because I don't have my computer to click end episode or anything like that. But if that's the case, just don't listen to the rest of the show. I'll make it very clear when I'm done. And when Shockwave does work, I'll just click end episode then. But getting back to the life path thing here. Leader. No, I already did that one. I was talking about power trips. Next one is loner. Although often in the vanguard of society, those with the theme of inner invariability predict occupations or situations in which they are in some way isolated or set apart from others. Loners are generally happy with themselves, but should watch their irritation levels when people come into their space. If each theme recognizes the present significance of other themes, the result will be far greater intolerance and understanding in the world and eventually peace. The next one, loser. Why would you want to be a loser? It says entities with a loser theme are extremely negative, although unlike those with fallibility as a theme, they are born without handicaps. Often they have many good points, but choose to ignore them due to their theme may resemble that of the irritant and the proclivity for constant criticism. They are different in that they invariably place the blame back on poor me. These entities are prime martyrs, moving from one elaborate soap opera to another. By observing this theme in action, we are determined to be more positive. It is important that we not judge the people who have this theme, remembering that their patterns were chosen to enable us to perfect ourselves. And similar to the manipulator, that's the next one, similar to the loser is the manipulator, who it says this is one of the most powerful themes, for manipulators are easily able to control situations as well as people. Well, I was using manipulator in a bad way. You don't have to necessarily manipulate in a bad way. You can manipulate in good ways, just like how there can be good propaganda. It says by viewing people in situations as a chessboard, those with the manipulator theme can move people and circumstances to their advantage, as though they were pawns. When such a person works for the good of others, this theme is elevated to its highest purpose. When the theme is misused, the ultimate goal of perfection takes a long time to achieve. And there's a lot of people I know who are manipulative, and some time that I knew. I don't really know any people now who try to manipulate others, but those manipulators, it kind of makes you wonder, how can people be so easily manipulated? Well, I think it's because they think the person who's trying to manipulate them cares about them. Like the government, they think cares about them, but it doesn't. So the government can manipulate easily. And that's especially true in America, where Americans suffer from exceptionalism. We don't have leaders who will harm us. Our leaders will never manipulate us in negative ways. And wrong. Of course they would. And something just flashed on my computer here. I don't know what that was, but whatever the case, I'm just going to move on here to the article. Passivity is the next life path. Surprisingly, entities with a passivity theme are actually active, but about nothing. Though they will at times take stands on issues, it is always in a nonviolent and passive manner. Although any extreme is hurtful to the individual, some tensions may be needed in order to bring about the perfection of the soul. And the next life path. And by the way, noticing that they didn't go over any O life paths, I bring that up because Sean Cohen, even though I can't communicate with you in the chat room, I'll take it that you are listening right now. And if you are, you told me once I am an observer because I observe things and I try to get information out. And for some reason they did not put that on the in this article here as one of the life paths. I wonder why. Well, there's probably many more life paths to choose besides the ones here. But for some inexplicable reason, they missed observer. And that means a lot to me for some reason. Well, because maybe you told me I'm an observer. Sean, you did. That was when I called into In5D Radio, and you told me I expect big things from you in 6 months. Then about when those 6 months passed, I had my own radio show, which in some shows are going like wildfire, some aren't. Probably the shows I do by myself seem to have a lot of listeners. Make of that whatever you will. But, all right, enough about me. Let's get on to the next life path, which is patience. Some people don't have patience, but it's supposed to be a virtue. The patience theme is clearly one of the most difficult paths to perfection. Those with this theme seem to desire a more rapid attainment of perfection than entities with less challenging themes. Often they carry great amounts of guilt when they feel that they have strayed from their goal and become impatient. This attitude can lead to self-abasement and sometimes to suppressed anger. These entities must be lenient with themselves, for living through the circumstances they've chosen to express this theme is difficult enough. Yes, when you're not patient, you become angry. When your beliefs are not met, you become angry. And you try to suppress your anger. And, well, sometimes suppressing your anger, some people are good at it, some aren't. Even though your anger is suppressed, you still act out, and you do unpleasant things when your beliefs aren't met or when you become impatient. 'Tis a shame, but that's the nature of reality for you. So, next one, pawn. Interesting life path. I wonder what that could be about here. The biblical Judas was a classic example of the theme of pawn. Whether the means is negative or positive, pawns trigger something of great magnitude into being. We cannot evolve toward universal perfection without the pawn, but those entities who select this theme should preserve their dignity by only picketing worthy causes. I'm just pausing here for a moment because apparently I'm going to get logged into the Blog Talk studio on my computer, which, even though Shockwave isn't working, hopefully when it's in, I will be able to end the episode when I get the chance. Let me see if the chat room is working again. I am so going to have to complain to Blog Talk Radio about why I started hearing commercials on my headphones about an hour into the show, and now I'm forced to talk on my cell phone for the rest of the show. It is a shame and a puzzlement. Good thing it recognizes me here as being on the show, so I guess that means it's working. And I just got a message saying Shockwave Flash isn't working. The chat room is loading. Let me see if I can see anything. Sean is writing things. She can hear you, and writes, that is me. I guess that was when I was talking about the observer thing. No, right then she writes humanitarian, so alphabetically speaking, she couldn't have been talking about that. But because it's not alphabetical, it's observer. I would have been talking after the humanitarian thing, but she says here, Andrew, you have a couple themes too that maybe I was reading she recognizes. All right, again, enough about me. Let's move on here. Peacemaker. I know a few people who said, I'm a peacemaker, but they turned out to be a pain in the ass in my life. I'm sure you know a few people too. But anyway, it says here, the peacemaker. Entities who select the theme of peacemaker are not as specific as the name applies. Peacemakers are actually pushing their desire for the pursuit of peace. They will work endlessly to stop violence and war, addressing a larger audience than those who adopted for harmony as a theme. Their goal of peace far exceeds an allegiance to one particular group or country. Well, if you want peace, don't make war. Can you create peace after war? Well, that's what they said they were going to do with the United Nations, but that's a plot for global totalitarian government. Oh, well, can't sit back and do nothing about it. Got to rise up and fight the UN and be peacemakers, but at the same time maybe get a little loud and obnoxious and be a little pushy and in your face. Because in the end, you will get what you want, peace. And in this matrix where fear is unavoidable, maybe it's necessary to do some of that. But the next one here, performance. Those with a performance theme find it highly rewarding, but frequently exhausting. These entities are the true party animals. Some will go into actual entertainment careers, but others will simply be content to entertain in their homes or offices. The challenge here is for those with performance as a theme to combat burnout by looking within, thus acquiring the ability to nourish and entertain themselves. Yes, you got to entertain yourself, because all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. I know that very well. And sometimes even doing a lot of spiritual work can make you dull. I mean, I love sun gazing. I like getting out into nature. But even after a while, when I'm sitting out by a creek or sun gazing in the backyard of the church that's near my house, which is like a huge nature reserve for all intents and purposes, when I'm looking at the sun and lying down on the grass, after a while I say, you know, I love nature, I love the sun, but this is getting kind of boring. I need to get up and do other things. I need to enhance my performance by maybe getting a little active. I mean, there are times like during the summer solstice weekend when Andrew Barnes said, stay away from electronics, get out into nature. But hey, if you're out in nature too long, you miss your electronics, because the electronics can make you an activist. I guess that's how it works in some regards in the performance factor. Sean wants to call in. I guess call in by all means. I don't know if my computer is actually going to work. I don't know. I don't know if you call in, I'll be able to know if I'll be able to let you on, because my computer mouse doesn't seem to be working here in regards to being able to click. So I don't think it's going to work out. You can try, but if I don't let you on, then you'll know that I'm not able to do it. So it's your decision. I'm actually going to reload that page. Next life path. Persecution. This arduous theme is chosen to allow others to grow spiritually. Entities with a persecution theme live their lives in anticipation of the worst, certain that they are being singled out for persecution. Experiencing pleasure can throw them into a panic because they are convinced that somehow they must pay for it. So, are persecution people who want to be slaves? Who wants to be a slave? Well, there are some freedom fighting videos out there on YouTube, and they get dislikes. And you think, why would anybody dislike this video unless they want to be a slave? Makes no sense. But I guess that's the way some people are. They want to be slaves. All right, next one. It says persecutor. I guess that's the opposite of the persecution life path. This is the persecutor life path. Those with a persecutor theme may range from wife beaters and child abusers to mass murderers. It's difficult to see the purpose of this theme within a single lifespan, but these seeming bad seeds have a self-chosen role to play that enables mankind to evolve towards perfection. Once again, it's imperative that we not attempt to judge the individual just because they want to persecute. But the persecutors, I can imagine that when their life path career is over, they have to face and see it, look upon their life for the life review. There's a lot of people out there who say a life review does happen when you die. Your consciousness, your soul, your essence will have a life review in the presence of judges, for lack of a better phrase, and you will have to see the good things and the bad things you did in life. And persecutors, I'm sure it's pretty unpleasant. And another one that's unpleasant, I'm sure, to have to experience is the next life path, poverty. The theme of poverty appears most frequently in third world countries, yet it can be even more of a challenge in affluent societies. Some entities with poverty as a theme may even have all they need to be comfortable and yet feel poor. With progress, the frenzy fades and is slowly replaced by a sense of bliss as the realization comes that the trappings of this world are transitory thugs whose importance will quickly pass. Yes, we all want to get out of poverty, but the powers that be do not want us to get out of poverty. By the way, Sean, apparently my computer is working. I think I'll be able to let you on the... Oh, no, I spoke too soon. I was able to move my mouse over some of the buttons, and now all of a sudden the computer froze, and it says, and now the message pops up, a plug-in Shockwave Flash is not responding. I'm definitely going to call Blog Talk Radio and ask what's going on here, why I heard the music and why Shockwave Flash isn't working, but I'm sorry I got your hopes up when I said call in, but apparently I can't let you on. And apparently, hopefully there's some way for me to use the internet on my phone to while I'm on on the phone during the show if need be to speak to people in the chat room, but we'll see how it goes. I really want to use a PC and not have a phone near my head. Although I suppose there are things I could buy to connect the phone to some wiring so I don't have to have it near my head like this. All I got to have it near my head for 27 minutes at the most. But next one here, the psychic. Oh, this is a fancy one, many people would think. The theme of psychic is more of a challenge than a gift, at least in the early stages. An entity with this theme is able to hear, see, or sense things in a manner beyond that of natural sense perception. In other words, there are more than 5 senses. Often it comes to those in strict backgrounds where authority figures strive to deny or suppress the gift. Eventually, the entity will learn to accept and live with this ability, using it for good in a spiritual, if not professional, manner. Yes, and I know a few people who have decided to use that in a benevolent manner. And I'm playing with my computer again, and I realize that when I log into the screen and go over the button, it works. But then after I do that for 1 second, a message pops up saying plugin isn't responding. So I guess that means whenever it is, that's when I can click the end episode thing when I'm done. But, God, this is such a pain in the ass. Never had to use a phone to do the show until now. It's always been headphones and the computer. All right, we're almost on the list, though. Rejection. This challenging theme manifests itself early, with rejection or alienation experienced in childhood. The syndrome accelerates with entry to school and subsequent involvement in relationships. Often these entities are deserted by those they love. Even their own children will adopt surrogate mother or father figures. The pattern can be broken once the entity recognizes what is happening and surrenders the action and the ego involvement to God. Yes, some people have been rejected. I myself was rejected. Anybody who does my show knows that I talk about things that normal people don't talk about, and people like that will not necessarily get rejected but get looked upon as unusual, which is okay because I don't give a rat's ass what other people think about me. But there are people out there who will say you should care what other people think about you or you will be rejected. Oh, yes, looking in the chat room here. I can see the things in the chat room, even though I can't type in it. I can read the messages. That's good. Sean Cohen is saying that me, meaning her, is a psychic. She is. She's did some readings when I had her on my second ever show. And that was the show where I had the most callers in. I wonder maybe they'll call into my show. Maybe it's because they know my show is based on getting information out and they want to hear me get the information out so they don't call in. I think my show's not really conducive to people calling in. But, hey, that's the way it is. So next one is rescuer, next life path. One often finds the rescuer working alongside the cause fighter, but when the cause fighter moves on to another cause, the rescuer remains to care for the victim. Even when the victims have obviously created their own problems, the rescuer is determined to save them. Often doing so, it is the rescuer who is victimized. An entity with a rescuer theme has a high degree of empathy and can manifest strength for those in need. This theme presents a tough road to travel, but the spiritual rewards are great indeed. Excuse me, folks, I need to get a drink. You know, it's funny, maybe if I didn't have these technical issues throughout the show, I wouldn't be able to make my show 2 hours long. But anyway, maybe I won't even be able to do a full 2 hours. We're almost on the list here. Responsibility. Individuals who have chosen the responsibility theme embrace it with fervor rather than obligation and feel guilty if they don't chicken soup everyone who comes into their orbit. The challenge is to decide what is immediate and necessary and then to stand back and allow others to share in the assumption of responsibilities. Yes, we're all responsible for our own actions, not just the adults, but the kids as well. But hey, parents, you got to help your kids become responsible because they're developing. So make sure you teach them to, this is a life path everybody should have. Everybody should have a responsibility life path. But some responsibility life paths become more intense than others. And if you feel too responsible, you might become too obsessive, and then you might lose touch with reality. But next one, this should be a red-linked life path because it's one that I guess everybody would want to follow. Spirituality. The quest to find a spiritual center may be all-encompassing for entities pursuing a spirituality theme. When the full potential of this theme has been reached, the entities are far-sighted, compassionate, and magnanimous. But while still involved in the search, these entities must guard against being narrow and judgmental in their views. Survival is the next one, and this, in a sense, is kind of the opposite of spirituality. And because if you're spiritual, you realize you're spirit. You don't really need to survive because you're infinite. But a survivalist, well, I don't know, I sort of maybe think of spirituality and survival as balancing the left and the right brain. Spirituality is the right brain, and survival is the left brain. Survival is the acknowledgement of the matrix we're living in, and spirituality is the realization that we don't have to be in a matrix. So kind of makes sense with these two, even though this list is alphabetical, it makes sense that they're next to each other because they're seem sort of yin-yangish, if you will, because they want to keep us in a matrix filled with thinking about survival. But spiritual people realize that you shouldn't have to worry too much about survival because you're infinite. Then again, if you don't worry about survival, you might lead an unpleasant life. Like in the event that the economy does collapse, you want to have lots of storable food and ham radio and water filters and all the rest of it, which I, by the way, have bought for myself. You're a fearmonger. You're panicking. You're worrying about things you shouldn't worry about. No, folks, don't rule out the possibility that we might go on a malevolent timeline. Although everybody is asserting at this point there is no malevolent timeline, although if you time travel into the future, I suppose, like Andrew Bishago talked about in my show with him, you could see a malevolent timeline, but maybe we are not going to necessarily go on that timeline, even though you can still see it. So you can say what you want. Maybe I'm wasting my time buying all this survival equipment and everything and storable food and all, but in the end, I know it will still work out well because I have many, many years of food that'll last 25 years. Okay, I'm going to move on here. Temperance. It's related to the temperance movement that wanted to ban alcohol. Where, by the way, prohibition was all a government plot to destroy society. They care nothing about people getting drunker or worrying. They didn't care about alcohol's problems in society. It was not about suppressing alcohol because of the problems it causes. That was not what prohibition was about. But anyway, that's a side issue. Temperance here. Very probably the entity with a temperance theme is dealing with an addiction of one kind or another. The challenge here is to avoid extremes. Perhaps the entity has conquered the actual addiction, but is still dealing with the residue of feelings about it. The key to combating the fanaticism that often characterizes those with temperance as a theme is moderation. The true meaning of temperance is moderation. Well, when it comes to illegal drugs, you shouldn't use drugs at all. They're illegal. No, the government never had authority to make drugs illegal because we never gave them our individual authority to do that. So, but that's a side issue. Yet again, two side issues with one life path, and it's temperance of all life paths. Well, you hear that word, you think about alcohol and drugs now, don't you? All right, next one here, tolerance. Entities choosing the tolerance life path theme must be tolerant about everything, world affairs, relatives, children, politics, and so forth. The burden is so great that they often will only choose one area to tolerate, remaining very narrow-minded to all the rest. By recognizing their theme, these entities can meet the challenge and so grow more and more magnanimous. Yes, you don't want to tolerate one thing, I guess. Let me read this again because I seem to be a little confused about what they define tolerance theme, because there is a little bit of a debate of what tolerance means. I remember that South Park episode called The Death Camp of Tolerance, where Mr. Garrison wanted the school to fire him for fire him for because of his sexual orientation and such, so he can make $25 million in lawsuit. They were very tolerant of his behavior, and he asserted that tolerance and acceptance are different. You can tolerate something, but it can still piss you off. But if you accept it, it won't piss you off. So maybe that's what's going on here. Maybe they should call this the acceptance theme. I don't know. Moving on. Victim. Oh, it seems like an inauspicious life path. Victim. These entities have chosen to be sacrificial lambs. By their example, dramatically displayed by the media, we are made aware of injustice. President John Kennedy is an example of one pursuing a victim theme. Not merely his means of exit, but his back pain, his family name, and the pressures placed upon him by his parents. Many victims, after having played their parts, may choose to rewrite future scripts by altering their masochistic tendencies. Well, John Kennedy, Andrew Bartzis once said that he violated his soul contract. His soul contract was to work for malevolent forces like the Illuminati. He did not meet up to that soul contract because he was trying to do good things when he made a soul contract for malevolent entities. And Bartzis said it was unavoidable that he would die at that time and place that he died. Well, time and space are illusions, but anyway, it was unavoidable that he would die at the moment he died because his soul contract karma, violating it, had come back to haunt him. And the bullet to the head, which had not come from the book depository, was an unintended consequence. That bullet to the head was that he was going to die there at that moment. That's the way this matrix plays out, what is unavoidable, apparently, in the case of John Kennedy. And don't even get me started on how when I was there for the 50th anniversary of the JFK rally at Dealey Plaza, we were assaulted by police. I actually go into that in my interview with Stan Freeman at the beginning when I covered news. I tell about my experience there if anyone wants to check that out. But that is, of course, a side issue. Well, actually, no, it's not a side issue because I was a victim. So were all the other people who were assaulted by those despicable federalized sheriff's deputies. Oh, my God, it was so sick. And Alex Jones said he was going to sue Dallas. I don't remember if he did. If he did, he's not making a big scene about it. It only makes sense if he did. But anyway, the next one, the opposite, victimizer. People's Temple leader Jim Jones was a prime example of the victimizer theme in action. Within the framework of one's own viewpoint within one's life, it is almost impossible to see the full purpose of Jones' manifestation of this theme. Yet it is obvious that many lives, as well as many life themes, attracted with his. In the tapestry of life, Jones' unique role may have been to focus public attention on cult abuses. Jim Jones, I don't know if that's the cult leader I'm thinking of, but when it comes to cults, there might be a victimizer and a victim. So watch out if you want to join some sort of a cult. I shouldn't use the word cult in a bad way. The word cult generally means people will follow something that not normal people in that society, in that group, don't necessarily follow, but the word has taken a negative connotation, just like the word occult has. Occult, it just means hidden, secret, but yet people take it in a bad way. Because we're trained to take it in a bad way, apparently, in this matrix by the malevolent entities who want us to think about survival and put us in an order out of chaos, warring mode. And, well, since I mentioned warring, let's talk about the next one. Warrior. Entities with a warrior theme are fearless risk takers who assume a variety of physical challenges. Many go into some form of military service or law enforcement. With humanitarian as a secondary theme, they may be particularly effective with humanitarianism as a secondary theme. Though it is important to temper aggression, it still remains that without warriors, we would be prey to tyrants. It's funny I read this because just the other day I was debating Eddie Craig of Rule of Law Radio about Dean Clifford. Dean Clifford talks about trust law being involved in the courtrooms. He believes in the birth certificate straw man thing. And by the way, Winston Stroud talked about Dean Clifford's methods in my interview with him. Don't remember the exact part. It was in the second hour if anybody wants to check that out. But Dean Clifford, even though he never gets the crimes put on his record, he always gets thrown in jail a lot, and he always gets out of it without a criminal charge or anything because he somehow exploits the system, the trust law system. But Dean Clifford once said, showing a cop your license when he pulls you over is not admitting that you're in commerce, because showing a cop your license when he pulls you over is no different than a cop showing his friends at a bar his cop badge to make it clear that when he's not doing things away from work, he's a cop. When he's out at the bar, he's doing things as a cop and all, and there's no difference. And Eddie said, no, Dean is totally wrong on that one when I asked him about it. And I said that maybe when Dean gets out of jail, because Dean Clifford is in jail right now, but I bet you he's going to get out of it without any criminal charges on his record, because he always does, and he never pays taxes, by the way. And I'm going to ask Dean, hey, Eddie Craig said A, you said B, now you have to explain your side. And when I put that on Eddie Craig's Facebook wall, Eddie said, I don't know if you should do that because it makes it seem like we are warring each other. Hey, I appreciate your quest to find the truth and all by exposing contradictions in people in the similar fields of research, but you don't want to take it too far. When I say something, you go to Dean. Dean gives his point, you go back to me. I give my point, and it makes it seem like we're warring, like we're warriors. Well, I don't really look at it that way. I look at it as expanding consciousness and expanding knowledge by talking about what people in different fields, similar fields of research say that's different from each other. That's all I want to do with it. But some people don't seem to look at it that way. But this is the last trade here. And there is an in-5D addendum. Maybe I'll read that, written by Greg Prescott, apparently. But winner, it says here, unlike those entities with infallibility as a theme, to whom everything comes easy, winners feel compelled to achieve. They strive to win with great tenacity, often gambling or entering contests. Perennial optimists, they're always certain that the next deal, the next job, even the next marriage will be the best. And I remember that very well when I was a thrower, a shot put and discus thrower in high school. One of the things on our throwers' creed list, I believe the number one creed was the next throw is the best one. The next throw is always the best one. Similarly, and I did feel like a winner. I was one of those kids that when we were playing Little League baseball, everybody made the playoffs, but some of my teammates were said, I want the season to be over. I want the season to be over. And I always wanted to win a championship, so I guess that makes me a winner. And I always wanted to keep winning when I was a shot put and discus thrower and making great throws, and always wanted to finish number one. I'm not like one of those athletes who would just slack off because I don't care if we win or lose, and I want the season to be over so I can do other things. No. I wasn't like that, so I guess that makes me a winner. Though that doesn't necessarily mean I always win. Yeah, I just have the attitude of a winner. And but anyway, the rest of this life path here, no sooner has one deal fallen through than they pick themselves up and go on to what they know will be a winning situation. And the challenge with these entities is to take a realistic approach to winning. Grantland Rice once said, it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. Which is one of the most retarded quotes anybody could ever make. Yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that. But everybody should feel like a winner, even though you may not necessarily be able to win. Instead, if you think you'll lose, you'll lose. If you think you'll win, well, you may still lose, but you increase your chances simply because you feel like you're going to win. And if every single Little League baseball team had a majority of players who said, I want the season to be over, I want the season to be over, I don't care how deep we get into the playoffs, I don't care if we win or don't win a championship, and if everybody on every team thought about that, the team that won the championship, would they actually feel good when they won the championship, when all along the majority of the players wanted the season to be over? It's a paradox, but I guess it kind of makes sense now, doesn't it? Well, that's the end of the article. I don't think I'm going to be able to get my show a full 2 hours here, but actually there's the N5D addendum. I think this will give us something about the source here. Sylvia Brown did an amazing job compiling these life themes. Personally, I could identify with many of these themes and wonder if that is a sign of being an old soul. Ultimately, I can boil them all down to 2 or 3 themes, although I'm still not sure which one I'm on and wonder if it's possible to have more than one in any given particular incarnation. Well, I still have a little bit of time. Let me quickly see if maybe – I do remember reading that old soul. I don't know if I'll be able to quickly cover it in the time period that the show is going to be ending in. But let me just click here and see how long that article is. 9 signs you're an old soul. I don't think I'm going to be able to go through all 9 signs in 7 minutes. Maybe someday I'll do another. If I ever do the show by myself, this is an article I'll pick to talk about here. But hey, just for the hell of it, let's click on this. It's funny how even though my browser window is slow, whenever I type a thing into the browser, the URL bar, it seems to take a long time. But when I click on a link in a given article, it doesn't take a long time. Well, another time I get a message here, Shockwave thing isn't working, so I could not load Shockwave Flash, but that doesn't really matter, but because I'm able to see this article. Oh, I'm not going to be, well, actually, I'll quickly read these over really quick. I won't be able to get into detail, but 9 signs you're an old soul. Number 1, you tend to be a solitary loner. Number 2, you love knowledge, wisdom, and truth. Number 3, you're spiritually inclined. Number 4, you understand the transience of life. Number 5, you're thoughtful and introspective. Number 6, you see the big picture. Number 7, you are materialistic. Number 8, you're a strange, socially maladaptive kid. And number 9, you just feel old. Well, I sort of relate to these things. Does that make me an old soul? I'm not even going to get into that. But I guess I might as well end the show right now. So many technical issues. I'm going to try to fix this for next week. And with that being said, next week, I'm scheduled to have Alan Steinfeld on. Who is he? Well, for one, he was another presenter at the Free Your Mind conference in Philadelphia. And it was April 2013. I didn't see his presentation, but he was there, and you can find his presentation on YouTube. His name is spelled A-L-A-N, Alan, S-T-E-I-N-F-E-L-D, Steinfeld. Type it into YouTube. You'll see the Free Your Mind presentation. I recommend maybe watching that, and we'll use his presentation material as a guide for the show, and I'll get into really detail about things that he didn't cover in that presentation. And actually, it was supposed to be Evie Lorgan coming on the show, who was another Free Your Mind 2013 conference presenter, but she had another meeting that she had to go to, and she was unable to cancel that meeting to come on my show. So she will be coming on at a later time, probably whatever date in September it was that Alan Steinfeld was originally scheduled for. But Alan got his wish. He wanted to come on the show at an earlier time than originally scheduled, and now we get to do him next Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully I want us to change the show time and all, and hopefully I'll be able to get through these glitches. I will be calling Blog Talk Radio to find out what the problem is. So the show might still be going on, even though I'm going to hang up because I can't load Shockwave Flash here to end the episode. But I am going to end the episode now and hang up, so you won't be hearing me for the rest of the show. So without further ado, namaste, everybody. We'll have Alan Steinfeld on. We'll be talking about new realities. I forgot to point that out. That's his website, newrealities.com. He talks about consciousness expanding things for a new reality. So this should be a very interesting talk. I'd like to see what his true specialties are, but I'm sure we'll discuss a polymath's worth of things, if you will. So I will end the show right now. So namaste, everybody. Forgive me for the technical difficulties, and enjoy the rest of your experience throughout consciousness.